Hello everyone, in this video I'm going to show you how to configure FortiGate HA, which is high availability between two FortiGate devices. In this case we're going to be using the Seattle router. If you follow my previous video, you will notice that we actually did this topology where we actually did a site-to-site VPN. That's why so currently this here you can actually access here using the VPN. Watch my other video. I actually would link it below in the uh, in the video so you can actually watch that video. So what I want to do now is to set up an HA between these two firewall here so that if this particular firewall goes down, this one takes over. So basically we're going to be doing active passive HA on this FortiGate firewall. First I'm going to show you what is currently configured on my first firewall, and I'm going to show you what is configured on my second firewall. So here, as you can see, let me log in. On my first firewall, you can see that I have port 1, port 3. Port 1 is my ISP, and my port 3 is my LAN, which is actually similar to what you have here in the topology here. So as you can see here on my port 3, which is the one that goes to my LAN here, which is 192.168.177, and my router is .254. So basically, this LAN here and this one here is what you have configured here on this device, which is the Seattle WA, and then the Seattle WA2, which is this device here. Move the tab around. So here we have Seattle WA2, which is this device. You can see that I have port 1, which is basically the interface to my network, which is basically how I'm able to actually connect using the web browser. And then you have port 2, which is actually what I'm actually using as in for HA setup here. So what we're going to do is to set up HA. So I'm going to set up the HA started from this one here. You can actually start it from anywhere. So in this case, I actually have my port 2 disabled. If you remember, the reason why I disabled port 2 in my previous video was simply because the number of interface I can have, the number of policy I can have actually determines what's it called, the limitation of the trial version license that I'm currently using. So notice that I have this interface here. I also have the tunnel, which is what I created in my last video, and then I have the port 3. So basically these are the 3 ports I can actually create for what's it called, for HA. But in this case here, I won't be able to actually have port 2 because of the limitation of the license, except I turn off this particular one, or I turn off this particular one. So anyway, let's see how it goes. So what I'm going to do is to activate this interface by enabling it. So this interface is enabled. Remember what I said about the limitation of the license. The limitation of the license only allow me to have 3 ports. So port 1, this is the first one, this is the second one, this is the third one. So this currently is not working, but I could actually turn this off pending the time I'm able to set up the HA and then do my HA tester. So port 2, this is, notice that the moment I turn that off, what's it called? Port 2 is still kind of like grayed out. So anyway, so what we're going to do is, let's see. Okay, now you can see port 2 is now active. What we're going to do is to set up the HA. To set up HA, go to System and go to HA. And then here we're going to change the mode from standalone to active passive mode. the priority, the device priority, notice here it says the device with the highest priority is more likely to become the HA primary. So whichever device you want to be your primary is going to hold the highest priority. So in this case here, if I want this device to be the what's it called? The primary, I would leave the priority this way and reduce the number of the other priority, or I will increase this priority. In this case, let me just set it to 150. The next thing I'm going to do is to set the group ID. The group ID, you can just give it any ID. Um, so let me just leave it on 0. Then the group name, I'm just going to say, call it Seattle HA. So this name is the group name, which is the same name I'm going to use on the other device. Then I'm going to change the password. I'm going to enable session pickup. Then I'm going to enable the heartbeat interface. My heartbeat interface in this scenario is my port 2. So click on port 2 and then click close here and then click OK. So what I've done here is to set up HA on this device here. Notice it's currently just rolling. So I'm going to have to go to the other device and do the same thing. We'll change the mode from standalone to active passive. Now I could leave this on 120 because I already moved the other one to 150. I'm going to leave the group ID the way it is. I'm going to set the group name as the same, and I'm going to set the password also as the same password. Now the heartbeat interface in this case also is going to be port 2, close, OK, and that will also try to configure the HA. So we're going to go back to the previous device, and as you can see, it's going to take a while actually to try to set up the HA between the device. So uh, we can actually wait for this whole process. You have the choice. You have to wait for the whole process to actually complete. And once this is done, you're basically going to see that the device will attempt to reconnect, and that is basically what one of the things it's going to do when it's trying to establish the HA between the two devices. Notice automatically just lost connection to my FortiGate without me doing anything. So that's basically all the steps that it's going to do. So what it's going to do at the end of the day is that it's going to check the version. It's going to check the what's it called, the compatibility between. So basically, the most important thing you need to note is that the first two, I'm sorry, the two devices that are going to be in HA mode must be the same model and all that kind of stuff. It's going to check all those things to be sure that everything matches, and then once it's done, it's going to match the configuration of those two equipment together and then give you as a match them as a single device. So what then happens is that when this fails, this become active, and then when this fails, and then this becomes active. So basically that's what the passive active state is. The passive active state doesn't use the two firewall at the same time. That is inactive active state. Or in a passive active in an active passive state, what happens is that there will be the primary will be the main firewall that will be used. So in this case here, this is my primary firewall. So that will be what will be in use every time. The secondary firewall or the secondary HA device will basically just be, be there waiting for what's it called, for the primary to fail, or just waiting to step in. That's that appropriate word, waiting to step in if the primary fails. So basically this allows your network to stay online, gives you what's it called, failover or redundancy, so that if one of the firewall goes down, the secondary one assumes the responsibility immediately without any issue. Um, one other thing I would like to do is in this topology, I would like to actually connect this device here to the switch so that that would give us the same interface. So I'm going to just connect this port 3, which is actually what I disabled on this other switch, what's it called? On this other device. I'm going to connect it to the switch. So basically, I have port 1 going to my service provider. Port 2 is my HA port. Let me label that. So basically, my port 2 is basically what I'm using for my HA, and then my what's it called? My ports. Let me put the name here. I'll just put it aside. That's okay. So now port 2 is what I'm using for my HA. So port 1 is what I'm using for my ISP. So port 1 is my ISP, port 2 is my HA, and then port 3 goes from the device to the switch. So in this case here, I won't be able to use port 3. I explained to you the reason why I'm able to use port 3 because I already used the third interface to set up a tunnel, which I can actually disable. So and then use port 3, but we'll see how the test goes. Now let's go back to the firewall and see if we're back. Let's see. So far, this has actually been offline for 3 minutes, almost 4 minutes now. So we're gonna wait for those two devices to actually regain connectivity. Let me see what is going on in the console. So in the console, let me open the console of this one here, which is the benefit of you um, having the console access to the device so you can actually see what exactly is going on in the console. So in the console, I can basically see that I'm getting a message like secondary configuration is not in sync with the primary, and then I can see secondary external file is not in sync with the primary. Now I'm just gonna wait until everything actually syncs up. So let me see. Yeah, like I explained, it basically takes a while for those two equipment to come back online. Once they're online, you actually would see the device actually syncing together. So I'm gonna pause the video so that I don't make this video too long, and then return back when everything is restored fully. Okay, one of the things I just want to bring here to you, notice this says secondary succeed to sync external files with primary. That's a good progress. So basically, we're able to see what is going on in the console of this one. I couldn't see what is going on in the console of this, and this is still restarting. And let me see if this is done. Still, I can just wait for everything to be ready. Now, notice that I lost connection to the secondary one. Now, I need to state that that's exactly what is going to happen. The moment the what's it called, the HE is established, you only will have the web access to just one firewall. You no longer will have web access to both of them because they actually are now operating as a single device. They're no longer operating with this IP anymore. It's now operating as a single device. Basically, most likely going to be using the primary IP. So the notice that I've basically lost access, or I have the what's it called, the session expired. It says it can't be reached because let me see. I'm gonna open this in a new tab. You notice I can't really reach that IP anymore. That's what happened when HA is set up. So what happened is that you basically will see messages like you notice this says secondary start to sync with primary, and then it gives log out all admin user, and then all these other messages came up, and then it says secondary succeed to sync files with primary. You can always see all those messages through console. So while we're waiting for this to come back up, I'll tell you exactly how long this took to actually come back, and then the moment everything is actually fully synced together, what we're going to see is we're going to see that we can actually now see both devices connected together using the HA. I'm going to show you also once we're able to log in back to the firewall. Okay, so yeah, we're back. So it's it actually took a while, but one of the things that actually happened along the way was that because my firewall was using DHCP, my DHCP server actually automatically reassigned the IP address, changing the IP address to a different one. So I just changed the IP address back, but it doesn't matter. Normally, that's one of the things that you should expect. Well, when what's it called? You have what's it called? Um, DHCP on your one interface, so that could actually cause a change of IP address. So what I did was to make sure that it's on static, so that would not change again in the nearest future. So I'm going to do a quick able to do a check on what's it called on the disk, just to be sure everything is working the way it's supposed to work. Um, while that one is rebooting, I'm just going to give it some time to finish its reboot. I'm also going to establish a connection to console. Okay, so I'm done with the reboot. We'll logging in now. Okay. So we're going to go scroll down to HA and see whether we have the HA setup. Okay, this is good. So now you could see we have both device already synced. Notice that the one with the higher priority, 150, is set as the primary role, and the one with 128, which is the secondary one, which is actually the Seattle 02, is actually the secondary. So notice that is basically the HA. So you can see these are the two devices that we have. And we're using port 2 for the heartbeat. That's why you see the port 2 is active like that. So you can actually click edit and change the priority if you want to switch between the two devices as your HA. You could as well also make some changes to the primary one. So that's basically how to set up HA. Now I did actually make a video on how to troubleshoot HA if you are having issue with this each of any of these HAs synchronizing. Sometimes it takes a while to synchronize. You just have to just click refresh, and then if that doesn't synchronize, you can actually go through your command line and actually check the HA status. Let me show you that. So the command is get sys HA status. So with this here, all you need to confirm on the configuration status is to see if they are in sync. Notice that this is a different device, which is this one serial number end with 8FO, which happens to be let me show you, which happens to be the MAC address, the serial number for the Seattle, Washington, or the Seattle WA, or the 02, that's the one with the 8FO, while the secondary device is the one that has, let me see, the one that has the B5 serial number. So this one here Notice the serial number is the one with the B5. So if we go back to the console, you can see the one with the B5, which is the secondary, is also in sync. So when you see this in sync, everything should actually be green here, which means you should actually have them fully synchronized. So what happens in that case is that there is basically um, failover between these two devices. So if this particular firewall goes down for some reason, is damaged or anything, the secondary one takes over the responsibility of the primary one. So let's say I want to make the W02 the secondary one. Let's say I want to make it the primary one. What do I do? Uh, the easiest thing to do is to um, change the priority. Remember that the one with the highest priority becomes the HA. So I can reduce the priority of this primary. That would then switch it to secondary as the primary HA, or I can increase this one. So I'm just going to go with reducing this 150 to something lower. So I could say, let's just say 120. Um, so what then happens, because this is now lower than 128, what then happens is that this 128 then takes over the role of primary. So in this case now, as you can see currently, we've changed this to 120, this is 128. Let's refresh. So as you can see now, once we refresh that, you see the WA02 is now the primary, while the WA is now the secondary. So notice this is basically the primary. So now both of them are still online, but this is now the primary device and this is the secondary. So you can basically switch between which device you want the primary device to be. I could as well just switch it back. Let me switch it back by increasing this from 120 to, let's say, 130. That is just basically two above two above the 128 of the current primary. So once you do this, what then happens is that it will try to reestablish the HA. You could actually see some of those things as well on the terminal if you're connected to the terminal of your firewall. So it will give you some of the logs or whatever is going on in your firewall. And as you can see, this basically logged me out. And then when I log in back, what you see is that the host name is changed to WA, and then we will check the role. You will notice that the one with the 130, which is the WA, is now the primary role. So that's basically how to switch the role. So what happened? This is basically how to test if a particular role is going to fail. So one other thing you could as well do is let's say that I could actually disable, let me try this way. Let's say I disable, since this is my primary, I'm going to disable the port 2 interface, which is actually the HA interface between the two devices. Let me try using CLI. Config system interface, update port 2 set status. Then we can set it either up or down. So up brings the interface up, down, shut the interface down. So in this case here, we're trying to shut down the interface. So once we shut down the interface, notice we're shutting down the interface of the primary HA. Let me just show you again. Currently, the primary HA is the WA, which is the role. So what we're doing is to shut down the interface, which is the HA interface between them. Once that interface is shut down, there is basically no HA between the two devices anymore. Are you with me? Well, that interface is showing that there's no HA between the two devices anymore. And notice I still have access to the console. One other thing I could actually also do is I could as well shut down what's it called, the one interface that goes to the device, or I could just do other things. So now let's see, the HA between those two devices are down. If I go to HA, let me refresh that. Let me just be sure that the interface went down. Oh, the interface is still up. I could take it down from here by just clicking on disable. Let me see. Give me a moment. Just want to be 100% sure. Normally that should have shut down the interface, but if that didn't work, let me just show you this way. I'm going to come here to my interface and then right click on this and just disable the interface. So that basically will just shut down the interface, and the interface is shut down. I can still access the device, but notice the HA, I can currently still see this device as a primary, because the reason why I can still see this device is currently because I'm logged in, what's it called, using the, what's it called, the IP address, which is 207. Remember, the two devices basically have 207 as the IP between them. So what I can do is, let's say, let me try this. Okay, I think I've lost connection to the terminal. Let me refresh. Notice that when I refresh, this changed to WA2. So now basically WA2 is now taking over the role of the primary. All I just did was just to, what's it called, shut down the HA between, what's it called, the uh, the primary and the secondary, and notice that the secondary now is now the primary, and we lost connectivity to that. So in case the, what's it called, the primary FortiGate or the main one goes down, notice I changed my topology here because I didn't want that situation where we're having two different public IP addresses. I actually started with that initially simply because I wanted to make sure that, what's it called, we can actually access both firewall using a public IP address. Notice I just now have them connected to an edge switch, which which is actually connected to that same ISP. So basically, this is, what's it called? This is still, this is supposed to be the normal way, whereas in, well, this is supposed to be the normal way that your setup would be, whereby the, what's it called, the backup or the passive firewall and the active firewall are actually connected to the same service provider. Since we're using a single interface on the service provider, a switch helps us to actually connect to that same single interface. So that's what I'm just replicating here. So this and this are basically, what's it called? They're basically working together. So now you can see that the secondary has taken over the role of the primary, and the primary is already down. So we can as well bring that up again. So I can bring that back up, and let me bring that back up. To bring it up, one thing I could do is I could use my, what's it called, my console to log into, what's it called, the firewall, and then configure the interface. Remember, it was port 2 that we actually disabled. So remember, we shut it down. So now we can actually bring it up. So now that port 2 is now up. So I could actually give it some time to actually come back up, or I could just reboot this particular device. If I reboot it, that will just make it faster. So let me see. Give me a moment. Let's see what we have here. Yeah, I can see that the heartbeat is back. So I can see the heartbeat is back, which is good. So let's refresh. If this is taking a while for the secondary as for the other device to come up, we can as well. Let me just check one more thing I want to check and get system HA status. So here, when I check the HA status, remember what I told you, that you can actually find both devices. That tells you that they're in sync, and that actually happened about 3 or 4 seconds ago. So if I refresh this, you should have both of them. Just that's actually what just happened. So now notice what happened is that I'm still using IWA02 as my primary, uh, because the WA01 just came up. So what would then happen is over time, the this particular one here, the WA without a zero, let me just say WA01 basically would then take over the role of the primary. So that might take a while, but basically the one with the highest priority will take over the role. So that is basically that. Don't forget that you could always also what's it called? Put your hand on the scale by just adjusting the priority. You can adjust the priority anytime. Um, that is what we can do. See, currently is we have this error that says failed to retrieve. Let me refresh, refresh again. We still have this as a primary. It might take a while, but over time, it's actually just going to, what's it called? It's going to switch back um, to this one as the primary. So that's how to configure HA. Now, please watch my other video on how to troubleshoot HA. I actually went in there. I'm going to link that video also in this video where I showed the step by step on how to troubleshoot the what's it called, the HA, because sometimes when you perform uh, an upgrade of the firmware, what you end up seeing is that this would actually be red. It would not be synchronized with this one, but you will see both devices there, but they are not synchronized. So when you're not synchronized, what you can actually do is actually listed in that video. I actually go through each of the steps painstakingly. Please like my video, put your comments, and now we can actually improve some of this video. If you want a copy of this topology, you can actually just what's it called? You can just copy this. So if you want a copy of it, I can actually send it to you if you have GNS3. But it's something that you can actually as well design easily yourself. If you also want some of the firmware that I use for the firewall, you could actually ask. I could actually send that to you as well. Please let me know if you have what's it called, any question or any comments on how this channel can be improved. I really appreciate your time watching my video. I appreciate your support as well. Thanks for coming back for those who are just who are returning, and thanks to those who are watching us for the first time. Please watch my other videos where I showed you some of the things that are very, very useful in um, setting up a FortiGate network. Thank you so much for viewing. Let me dump this interface out. I'd like to wish you a very lovely day. Bye bye.